Well, hello. I am Mark Soloski. I am a professor of medicine here in the rheumatology division. I've been here in the division over 20 years and been part of the Hopkins community for 30 plus, and I'm an immunologist, very interested in how the immune response plays a role in chronic disease. There's a lot of examples out there of folks who get an infection, and even though they recover from the infection, there are events that occur that we don't really understand very well that lead to sort of long-term disabilities. It can be, muscle pain, joint pain. It can be neurocognitive issues or something like that. And the work that we're doing in the laboratory hopes to get to the bottom of that. I have to say is the fact that I had the opportunity to work with wonderful colleagues. I always tell students to never be afraid of being around people who are smarter than you. And that certainly is the case. But not only are people smarter, they're great people to work with. Very unselfish, willing to share reagents and ideas and provide you help. I had that impression very early on in my career here at Hopkins. And year in and year out, in over 30 years here, it's been continuously reinforced. I love the fact that I have great colleagues here, and that has kept me here because it's a very rich environment and rich in ideas. And having great colleagues just makes it even richer. In the last 5 years, I've gotten heavily involved in some human immune work. And as I said, sometimes infection can set up chronic illness where people just don't seem to feel better. And in the last 5 years, we've tackled a disease that many people have maybe heard about called Lyme disease. Lyme disease is an infection. It occurs after you receive a bite from a tick. And that tick happens to have in its gut a bacteria called Borrelia burgdorferi. It's a bit of a mouthful. But that bacteria gets transferred into our blood, into our skin, and it can initiate an immune-mediated inflammatory reaction. It's something that's very prevalent here in Maryland. Baltimore and Maryland is really squarely in the middle of where the infection is. If you look at maps that you might find online about where is Lyme disease, you'll see that Maryland is a very hot area. We have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of cases every year of Lyme disease. It's a disease that begins to appear in the spring, in the late spring. And that's when our friends the ticks start to kind of move around and quest, looking for a blood meal. And sometimes they find that blood meal on humans who are out in the yard, out in the forest, walking along trails and grasslands, etc. And we see a big increase in it coming up in the late spring, early summer. And then we see a decrease kind of in August, September, and then we actually see a small increase in the late summer. In the early fall. And then another decrease and goes quiet over the winter. So it's a cyclical type of disease that is something that is very intense in the summer months. Now, as I said, it's an infection. And one of the things that's very typical with folks is that they get a rash. Sometimes people see the rash, sometimes people don't see the rash. And this infection can seem like flu. So some people used to call it like a summer flu, okay? But it wasn't our flu virus. It was actually a infection with a bacteria. If you go to a doctor's office and you're properly diagnosed and you get properly treated, about 80% of the people turn out that they get better. So that's really good news. The bad news is about 10 to 20% of the people don't. They get a long-term illness that is referred to as post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome, PTLDS. And these poor folks, have muscle pain, they sort of have brain fog, cognitive disorders, they can have joint pain, they just feel lousy for a year or two out. even further. And that's the group of people that we're really trying to understand, to get our heads around about why is it that these folks develop this, what are some of the kinds of immune reactions that might occur in these people that are different than maybe the folks who recover, and use that kind of information to not only understand a disease, but maybe treat these folks as well, get opportunities for new treatment approaches.